Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We'll remind everybody hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And of course, there's the StreamYard link for anybody who wants to join the panel. And we've got John with us again tonight. How you doing tonight, John?
We're doing good, Keith.
Good.
Keeping my head clear, and I like to refresh my brain every day. It feels good.
Absolutely. Now, if you remember yesterday, folks, we got into the introduction of Socratic logic, and we left off on the first 2 points of using Socratic logic to help with faith. And the first one, of course, was being able to clarifying what you believe so that it's better defined for those that you're expressing it to. And then the second one was that there are events in life that no matter how dramatic or traumatic they might be, there are positive effects that can be had out of them. And so the third part, it says here, we're going to get right into it because, like I said, it's 34 pages and we've only got into the first couple. So it says, third, if logical arguments cannot prove all that faith believes, they can give firmer reasons for faith than feeling, desire, mood, fashion, family, or social pressure, conformity, or inertia. For instance, if you believe the idea mentioned above, that all things work together for good for those who love God, simply because you feel good today, you will probably stop believing it tomorrow when you feel miserable. Or if you believe it only because your friends or family do, you will probably stop believing it when you are away from your friends and family. This is called loneliness. But if you have logical grounds for believing this, even though those grounds are not a compelling proof, they can keep your faith more firmly anchored during storms of changing feelings, fashions, friends, etc. Good evening, 5-Speed. How you doing tonight, Russ?
I'm good, Keith. How are you, John? Hope you're well. Hope everybody in the chat's doing well.
Good. Nice to see you again.
Absolutely.
Yep, good to hear you.
So, you got any thoughts on this so far, 5-Speed?
No, actually, buddy, I wasn't really paying attention to. I just got up on panel. I apologize.
Okay. Well, we're basically talking about we've got this Socratic logic. Oops, and I forgot to put the link in the details tonight, but I will do that again when I get done. Let me see if I can pull it up. But in the meantime, we went over the basics that Socratic logic with Platonic questioning and Aristotelian principles is a foundation that can help you in every aspect of life, including faith. And that's part of what we're on right now, is that the first point is that you can clarify your belief or your faith, and that helps define it for others that you're expressing it to. And then, of course, the fact that bad occurrences, traumatic occurrences, dramatic occurrences that might seem to have negative effects can also have those positive effects, such as a learning incident. You can learn from drinking and driving and getting in a horrific accident and never do it again. You know, things like that. So even though it might seem like a bad incident, sometimes it's done or the effects are for the good.
I always try to, what I've caught myself trying to get into is trying to have these Socratic conversations with these public officials.
Well, yeah,
sometimes that's not always,
yeah, that's my constant battle.
Yeah.
It always has been. You know, like I said, I was the guy that was running around when I was a kid with a dictionary in my backpack all the time, you know, and I was really thinking about things and I was putting things in order. And that's what Socratic logic is. It's putting things in order so that they actually make sense. So you can derive at a future point in time, an incident or something, an effect, and you can derive from that point by looking backwards to get to its point of origin through a source of order. And that's what I'm trying to show everybody. There's an order to things, and people are not following the order.
That may be what I try to do to, I don't know, give back to the community more, because I kind of feel like I've been somewhat kind of stagnant, with all the shit that's out here in the betaverse. And I don't want to particularly be involved in much of it, but I just feel like we need boots on the ground, my people. And
Yeah.
so, that's what I tried to do. And I tried to have a conversation in that video that I sent you down there in Covington. And, I tried to have a conversation with them, find out what the stop was about, blah, blah, blah. They just kind of ignored me. And I'm like, you're not talking to the public, huh? And then I go on to outlining that it seems like an awful lot of resources, six officers here on a routine traffic stop, seems to be a little excessive in intimidation tactics.
Yeah, I saw
Of
that on
course,
TikTok.
yeah, of course they didn't like it none. So when he ended up letting that old guy go, but the big one went to come over to me, and the one in the blue stripe told him, "Get in your car." And I was like, smart move, but I don't want. I want conversation with these people. I'm not trying to belittle them or anything. I'm just trying to get them to see what exactly is they're doing.
Yeah, I got a buddy up here that just went to jail for 10 days. And so we're organizing a thing for hopefully this next Friday, not this Friday, but the next Friday, to go over and have a little standout at the police station and give them some information. Start educating them. Hopefully we're going to have a large group. So
Good.
it'll be one of my first. It'll be my actual second audit. My first one was from my stop almost 8 years ago. Yeah. And we all know how that turned out. It didn't go too good. So this time it'll be a little bit different, though.
So I reached out to the master commissioner here in Kentucky because, a couple officers there in that county where I did that cop watch or whatever you want to call it, because I don't like any titles either. But I reached out to the master commissioner, and his secretary called me today. And she said, "Well, what can I help you with?" I said, "Well, are you the master commissioner?" She said, "Well, no, I'm his secretary." I said, "Well, my message was quite clear. It was for Leonard G. Rocamp, the master commissioner. Why would you be calling me?" I wish to speak to him. He's the one in the fiduciary capacity.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
All righty. Yeah, be sure to keep me in touch on that, because that's, like I said, that's for here. It's the county commissioner.
Yes. Well, here they got the county commissioners too, but then you got that master commissioner, and that master commissioner actually acts as a liaison for the circuit. And obviously, that they do the accounting of the Social Security numbers. So there's the swap right at the circuit level and transferring people out of their agricultural presence and into that person's.
And that's what I'm hoping to help these guys learn this coming Friday or whatever. I'm going to take my documentation with me and let them see. This is right from your own people. This is your city leaders and stuff. And this is their signatures on this stuff. They're the ones saying financial index and then converting a beneficiary Social Security number to an obligor number without the dashes and changing your last name to a firm name, making it a corporate action. It's all evidence, material fact evidence that they do in fact operate as Article I corporate courts.
And right. And another thing that I did find out too, from what I've seen so far, all of these master commissioners are attorneys.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise.
Right. So you got that master commissioner acting as that attorney for that Social Security Administration in the accounting of that Social Security number, along with the counsel for the city council. It's also their legal counsel. I mean, look at this gig they got, man. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, that's why I've been doing these videos. And you see in the last couple ones, there is a definition for presumption that just clearly shows you that what they're doing is putting a faulty debt against the United States. Like I've been saying all along, that is the definition of presumption. You're laying a debt, a public liability by misrepresentation, and it doesn't matter if it was willing or unknowing or not. You did so willfully because you wanted to benefit. So whether you knew it or not, it was a misrepresentation. Now that I've been telling you it's a misrepresentation and what that misrepresentation is, you still want to keep doing that? That's like a 20-year sentence, I think.
And another thing too, that master commissioner is like in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, it's called the Master in Family Law. So everything goes. So everything goes to that master commissioner that goes through that circuit. So
Yeah,
that's the little son of a bitch that's got the black robe on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet
behind the curtains.
I'll bet that's the guy that's converting from the ecclesiastical sense to the business military sense.
Absolutely.
I bet he's the one that's standing there trying to determine in his narcissistic view whether the people that they're administrating under their residency are competent or not. I bet he's the one that looks at the case and says, yeah, go ahead, he's an idiot. Yeah, go ahead, he's an idiot. Yeah, and just tells them to push it through. I can't say that's for sure, but
well, you're right on it.
That's the way I see it in my mind.
I've been digging pretty heavy on that master commissioner and how they operate. You're dead on it, I believe.
Yeah. So anyway, as we see, the third aspect is realizing that the logic and reason that you use can give a firmer perspective to the things, a more solid perspective or foundation than things like it says feeling, desire, mood, fashion, and stuff. Your reason and logic is going to be more supportive than any food that you eat. It's going to be more supportive than any particular place that you live because you have a certain amount of money. The reason and logic is the foundation of true thought. Okay? It goes on to say, how could there be logical grounds for such belief as this, that all things work together for good, that seems to contradict common sense and experience? Some logical grounds might be the following. This conclusion can be logically deduced from 4 premises, which are much easier to believe. That God exists, that God is the creator of the universe and thus all-powerful, that God is the source of all goodness and thus all good, and that God is the source of all design and order in the universe and thus all wise. A God who is all-powerful is in control of everything he created. A God who is all good wills only good to everything he created. And a God who is all wise knows what it is ultimately for the best for everyone and everything he created. So to deny that all things are foreseen and allowed by God for the ultimate good of those he loves, example, wills goodness too, is to deny either God's existence, power, goodness, or wisdom. In a logical argument, you cannot deny the conclusion without denying a premise. You cannot admit the premise without admitting the conclusion. The logical chains of argument can thus bind our minds, and through them also even our feelings, to a certain degree, to God and to hope and to happiness, or to whatever faith you have. I'll add that in. The book doesn't say that. And if these 4 most basic premises of God's existence, power, goodness, and wisdom are questioned, logic may also help to establish them by further reasonable arguments. It's like saying I rode a bike and I fell off. I can't ride a bike. That's not a reasonable and logical conclusion based on the objective view that many people did fall off their bike, continued to riding that bike, and learned how to not fall off. The traditional arguments for the existence of God as an example, and perhaps logic, can give good grounds for the premises of those arguments too. The point is that logic can prove religious beliefs that would dispense with the need for faith, but that it can strengthen them. If it does not, if clear, honest, logical thinking leads you to disbelieve something you used to believe, like Santa Claus, then that is progress too. For truth should trump even happiness. If we are honest and sane, we want not just any happiness, but true happiness. But at the same time, this is not in the book, but at the same time, we must understand that that's not the only thing life is about. Just because we want it and we can find what we think to be true happiness doesn't mean it's sustainable. There are events in life that have to allow us to see our true happiness because of the true degradation or sorrow or anything else that might give an opposing dynamic.
Yeah, Mark Twain said, when in doubt, tell the truth.
Yep. I've always said truth needs no defense without doubt. It's an
Always
objective
go with
truth that
truth.
everybody will admit. Go ahead.
Always go with truth.
Yep.
And then Oscar Wilde said, if one tells the truth, one is sure, sooner or later, to be found out.
Here we go with L pathetical, the yellow belly turd lizard that won't come up on panel. Gonna sit down there and chat and try to pose his bullshit. Anyway, on with the next one. Says 7, wisdom. Philosophy means the love of wisdom. Although logic alone cannot make you wise, it can help. For logic is one of philosophy's main instruments. Logic is to philosophy what telescopes are to astronomy, or microscopes to biology, or math to physics. You can't be very good at physics if you're very bad at math, and you can't be very good at philosophy if you're very bad at logic. And this is why I said yesterday, I mentioned on somebody's panel at one time that I think we should all be philosophers. I think we should all develop our own philosophy and quit depending on somebody else's philosophy or regurgitating it. See, a philosophy is dependent upon your own life observances, and that's how you develop your own philosophy. You can compare it to the philosophies of other people that society calls philosophers, as well as the philosophy of other people that society doesn't recognize as philosophers. Because in my communications with many people about philosophy and many other subjects, I've come to find out that many people hold philosophical views of multiple different philosophers, and they're intermingling and changing, just like the English language. It seems to change and adapt. And again, that's, I think, the main problem with people. They want to get that comfort, convenient, sit there in that stagnant point in life and never move again, as if that's what their happiness is. It's pathetic. 8, democracy. There are even crucial social and political reasons for studying logic. As a best-selling modern logic text says, the success of democracy depends, in the end, on the reliability of the judgments we citizens make, and hence upon our capacity and determination to weigh arguments and evidence rationally. This is why I say, if you think you've got a healthy, strong nation full of 7th to 8th grade average reading comprehension illiterates, then you might want to think again. They depend on that for their democracy. They depend on you being stupid enough to believe that they can do something for you when you don't even understand the language, so that when you want to legislate out plastic straws, you get exactly what you fucking deserved. A bunch of slaves screaming and hollering to have their leaders do something, to sit there and praise them for doing something that they never really did, because what they did didn't have any real true effect on what the intent was, while totally ignoring the big issue. Keep sitting in your Plato's cave. Let's see here. As Thomas Jefferson said, in a Republican nation, whose citizens are to be led by reason and persuasion and not by force, the art of reason becomes of the first importance. The art of reason becomes the first importance. Defining logic limits. Does logic have limits? Yes, but we need logic to recognize and define logic's limits. Logic has severe limits. We need much more than logic, even in our thinking. For instance, we need intuition too. I mentioned that earlier. But logic helps us to recognize this distinction. Logic is the thing that helps you distinguish between anger, sorrow, bitterness, resentment, hate, fear, love, joy. It helps you sort out everything in your life. Because again, it's a matter of putting things in order, period. And that's what most people refuse to do when they get caught up in their emotions. In our lives, logical arguments are always embedded in a human context that is interpersonal, emotional, intuitive, and assumed rather than proved. And this colors the proper interpretation of a logical argument. For instance, in 1637, Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." 370 years later, a bumper sticker says, "I bitch, therefore I am." The logical form of both arguments is the same, but the contexts are radically different. Descartes was seriously trying to refute skepticism, the belief that we cannot be certain of anything, by a purely theoretical argument, while the bumper sticker was making a joke. We laugh at it because we intuitively understand that it means, don't complain about my bitching. Bitching makes me feel more real, more alive. So this is that Triggernomics guy down in the chat. You know, this guy here that hasn't made another comment since I ignored him. So now we'll pay him a little attention to see if he wants to pipe up again. See? That's how you use the little bitch-ass slaves. You trigger them. They think they're triggering you. But he proves by his cowardice of not coming up on panel that he's the one that's triggered. He's the one that come over here, wants to hide and duck in the shadows and won't come up on the panel. He ain't got the balls. Or she ain't got the balls, because you know me, I don't give a fuck. You're an idiot. You prove yourself. Your intellect is limited and biased, and you're proving it.
Well, you don't see much of me anymore. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
I noticed. I noticed. So it goes on to say, it says, logical thinking alone cannot know this, but it can know what its limits are. It can distinguish what it can understand from what it can't. This is why sometimes I do have fun with the idiots in the chat. And my apologies. I shouldn't be doing that, but
maybe I need to learn how to have more fun.
Anyway, the next one, 10, is testing authority. We need authority as well as logic, but we need logic to test the authorities. This is that 9th and 10th Amendment and the fact that the government can't govern except by the consent of those governed. It's an actual loop. You cannot test logic, or we need logic to test our authorities, and we need authorities to assert the logic, right? So as a group, or group as a whole, we have to be able to start instituting logic in our lives. We have to come out of this idiocy of popularity contest and thinking that somebody else is going to be able to stick up for us. Somebody else is going to bring forth their dogmatic views and push them against an oppressor that really isn't oppressing, and come to find out you using your dogmatic views are the oppression. Really need to think about this stuff. It is circular. That is what it is. You send your children to these public education centers and then wonder why they harass you and beat you up, and you end up being a drunk or an addict. The system's designed to tear up a family unit, and you jump right in it. We need authorities because no individual can discover everything anonymously. That's what I said myself. I come into this world 7 years ago doing this research, and everybody seems to think that I'm some kind of smart guy. No, I've just been doing a lot of research because I know I'm not the one that's got it. I've got to search it out, and I know everybody else is the one that's got it. Again, I didn't get it from myself. I did it by sitting down and doing my research. I have to give all glory to everybody else I researched. All glory goes to them, and that means it all goes to Him. All glory goes to the Creator. He's the one that allowed us these abilities. But we can't do it singularly, and we can't do it anonymously. We all do, in fact, rely on the human community, and therefore on the authority of others: parents, teachers, textbooks, experts, friends, history, and tradition, for a surprisingly large portion of what we know. Perhaps up to 99%, if it can be quantified. That's how convenient society is. You think you really know a lot? You think you really can do a lot? You couldn't have done it without everybody else. All of your life. I give all glory and praise to God for everything He taught my mother, that she taught me how to eat. All the way from gardening to cleaning the dishes and cooking everything in between. It's a hell of a process. I'd hate to think what I'd be eating today if I didn't learn it through somebody else. Would I have been able to take on that opportunity to learn it out there in the wild and still be able to eat like I do today? I don't know. Maybe I'd be healthier. I don't know. I do know that the logic and reason is that there was a source other than myself. There was an order to things. Something came before. And that is another reason we need logic. We need to have good reason for believing our authorities. For in the end, it is you, the individual, who must decide which authorities to trust. Mom and Dad certainly wouldn't make a meal that would poison me, so I trust them. The school nurse, I pissed her off quite a bit. I could often wonder whether she's going to dump something in my food to make me feel stupid or act stupid. It is obviously foolish to buy from every peddler of ideas that knocks on your mind's door. In fact, it is impossible because they often contradict each other. And this is why I say, with all this information that's being peddled out here, when I got into my research, it's only because I did that research that I found all these inconsistencies to find out that they're all false peddlers. You're not supposed to be claiming you're a resident. You're not supposed to be claiming that you're a United States citizen. You don't understand the capacity, then shut the fuck up. Simple as that. Stop doing what you're doing. Do some research so you can learn how to do something different. 11. Recognizing contradictions, the inconsistencies. One of the things you will learn in this course is exactly what contradiction means. how to recognize it, and what to do with it. Logic teaches us which ideas contradict each other. If we are confused about that, we will be either too exclusive, that is, we will think beliefs logically exclude each other when they do not, or too inclusive, that we believe things that cannot be both, that two things that cannot both be true. When we consider two different ideas which seem to contradict each other, we need to know three things. First of all, we need to know exactly what each one means. Only then can we know whether they really contradict each other or not. This is why I say, if you're going to try to excommunicate me from a community, logic and reason says you got to define the community first. You get that? You still down there? El Pathetico, you still down there? Go back and tell your daddy. That's what we're dealing with, logic and reason. You ain't going to beat it. Okay?
You reckon all this drama though, Keith, on all these panels, you reckon those people are careful to maintain good works and all of this truth and
They
everything?
can't be. They can't be.
It's impossible.
Yeah, that's why they go running their mouth like that at the whim and get butthurt and then try to project that I'm the one that got butthurt because I said I wasn't going to be back. No. That's not what it's about. It was about being a man of my words. You tried to play me as a bit non-bit and make me an emotional little bit non-bit. And I told you before, I'm not going to play that bit non-bit. Don't know what to tell you. I'm a man of my word. I said I wasn't going to do it. You did it again. I'm done. You want to get butthurt and go calling me all kinds of names and say that I'm butthurt, that's fine. Feel free. But in the meantime, fuck you. I don't give a fuck. So go back to tell Daddy and tell him that. Make sure. So the second one says, and if they do, we need to know which one is true and which one is false. So therefore, like I said, if you define community and you excommunicate me from the community, and you define your community as verses from my community, which extends from him, you're the one separating yourself from the community that I see. In my mind, of course. And three, and we do this by finding reasons by one idea is true and another is false. Origin source is the truth. It needs no defense. You have to defend your community. Don't you get it, Daddy? You got a lot of bitch-ass slaves you got to defend down there acting like a mob. Anyway, gets on to the next one, certainty. Logic has outer limits. There are many things it can give you, but logic has no inner limits. Like math, it never breaks down. Just as 2 plus 2 are unfailingly 4, so if A is B and B is C, then A is unfailingly C. Logic is timeless and unchangeable. It is certain. It is not certain that the sun will rise tomorrow. It is only very, very probable. But it is certain that it either will or won't. And it is certain that if it's true that it will, then it's false that it won't. You see how logic makes life simple? It really does, folks. In our fast-moving world, much of what we learn goes quickly out of date. He who weds the spirit of times quickly becomes a widower, says G.K. Chesterton. But logic never becomes obsolete. The principles of logic are timelessly true. This is why it's the objective truth that follows logic and reason. And so therefore, if you follow logic and reason, it's easy to see the objective truths. Our discovery of these principles, of course, changes and progresses through history. Aristotle knew more logic than Homer, and we know more than Aristotle, as Einstein knew more physics than Newton, and Newton knew more than Aristotle. So as we go through time, we pick up more and more information to add on. This is why I say, why would you limit yourself to the philosophies of one philosopher when we know things to grow? And this is why I say I do see a lot of people that follow various different philosophies from multiple different people, and I see these philosophies growing, and I think it's important that everybody learn how to develop their own philosophies. It's almost like a character set. It's the reasons behind why you behave the way you do. Our formulations of these changeless logical principles also change. This book is clearer and easier to read than Aristotle's Organon 2350 years ago. But it teaches the same essential principles. Our applications of the timeless principles of logic to changing things are also changing. The principles of logic apply to many different and changing things, but the principles themselves are unchanging and rigid. They wouldn't work unless they were rigid. When we hear a word like rigid or inflexible, we usually experience an automatic knee-jerk negative reaction. But a moment's reflection should show us that though people should not usually be rigid and inflexible, principles have to be. That's how you stand by your word, unflinchingly, unbendingly, and very rigidly. They wouldn't work unless they were rigid. Unless the yardstick is rigid, you cannot use it to measure the non-rigid, changing things in the world, like the height of a growing child. Trying to measure our rapidly and confusing changing world by a flexible and changing logic instead of an inflexible one is like trying to measure a squirming alligator with a squirming snake. 13. Truth. Our last reason for studying logic is the simplest and most important of all. Again, like I've said many times, truth needs no defense. Logic and reason will deduce exactly what the truth is. It is that logic helps us to find truth and its own end. It is worth knowing for its own sake. Logic helps us to find truth, though it is not sufficient of itself to find truth. It helps us especially, 1, by demanding that we define our terms so that we understand what we mean when we say community and excommunicate. And by demanding that we give good reasons, arguments, and proofs. These are the two main roads to truth, as you will see more clearly when you read chapter 2 on the 3 acts of the mind: understanding, judging, and reasoning. Truth is found only in the second act of mind: judging. Example, the judgment that all men are mortal. But 2 paths to truth are the first act of the mind. Example, understanding the means of the terms men and mortal. Understanding the terms excommunicate and communicate. And the third act of mind. Example, reasoning that since all men have animal bodies, and whatever has an animal body is mortal, therefore all men are mortal. These are 2 main ways Logic helps us to find truth. Truth is worth knowing just for the sake of knowing it, because truth fulfills and perfects our minds, which are part of our very essence, our deep, distinctly human core, our very selves. And this is part of the problem. We don't understand this part. That the truth is part of our very essence. And if we don't maintain that truth in our life, this is why I get upset at people that want to sit there and play these little white lies. Even the little white lies can be detrimental. And we've become a society that actually lives pretty much all of our life a great big lie and are okay with it, while recognizing that the generations are getting worse and worse and are okay with it. It's sad. Truth is worth knowing just for the sake of knowing it, because it fulfills and perfects our minds, which are part of our very essence, our deep, distinctly human core, our very selves. Our very selves. It's so important to go into yourself to find the truth. You're not going to find it out there. That's just what you observe. That's just the first stage of defining what's there. Truth is to our minds what food is to our bodies. Aristotle pointed out 24 centuries ago that there are 3 reasons for pursuing truth and 3 corresponding kinds of sciences. In the older, broader sense of the word sciences, namely, rational explanations through causes. He called the 3 kinds of sciences productive sciences, practical sciences, and theoretical sciences. Each pursues truth for a different end. One, we want to know about the world so that we can change it, improve it, and make things out of it, like rubber, roads, rockets, robots. This is the productive science. This is what Aristotle called productive science, since its end is to produce things. We call it technology after the Greek word techne, which means approximately know how. Knowing how to make or fix or improve some material thing in the world. Productive sciences include things as diverse as engineering, surgery, auto repair, cooking, and cosmetics. We also want to know about ourselves so that we can change and improve our lives, our behavior, our activities. Aristotle called this practical science, the things that we practice. Knowledge in practice, in action. Practical sciences include ethics and politics, as well as knowing how to do things as diverse as economics, singing, and surfing. See, that's what we're dealing with, is the practical sciences with this administrative courts and the administrative laws and everything. It's all a matter of practice. It's a legal practice. Same with your medical society. It's a medical practice. See, these are the things we're dealing with in those services. They are practices. They are practicing to perfect. And it's all done through reason and logic. The more you learn how to use reason and logic and work with them, like the emergency room, when they give you a sales agreement, and on that sales agreement, in an emergency room for crying out loud, and it says customer agrees to make third-party payments so long as it's understood that the credit is given to the customer's account, then oh yeah, I'll sign up for that. You understand the terminology and how it's in order. If it comes from me and I pay it in one way, then they have to give credit back to me. That's called circulation. That sentence defines circulation. Understand the language. And you learn how to work with it, with reason and logic. But most of all, number 3, we want to know simply in order to know. To become larger on the inside, as it were. to expand our consciousness. Sciences that pursue this end, Aristotle called theoretical sciences. This is where your ego exists. Okay? This is where your ego exists based on the second one, which is the truth, which is faulty if the first one, your definition, defining, and clarification of it is off. See what I'm saying? So if they're going to clarify something as a driver's license, it's going to be faulty right from the start if it's not being stated in truth as it applies according to the intended use, the theoretical science that's going to make you better, that's going to improve you. If you think going out and getting a driver's license is going to improve you in this society, I think you've been a little misguided. Okay? It's going to be used to your fault. It says theoretical sciences. Sciences that pursue this end, Aristotle called theoretical sciences, from the Greek word theoria, which means looking or contemplating. Theoretical does not necessarily mean uncertain or merely hypothetical. Theoretical sciences include such diverse things as physics, biology, theology, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. These all have practical applications and uses, but they are first of all aimed at simply knowing and understanding truth, even if there is no practical application of it. That tree out there is gone. The practical application of the truth that there used to be a tree there is all there is. It's gone now. I can't even tell you what kind of tree it is. And with that, we come to the next portion. Yep. So anybody got anything to say on that for tonight? Anybody? Anybody? Going once.
It's self-explanatory. I mean, you know me.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the things that some of us have. We have this innate ability to use reason and logic, and I see that in people, and you're one of them. And as for the general population, however, I don't see them using it, and that's the scary part. And I think that's part of the thing about that public education system, teaching everybody to just remember things instead of teaching them how to use a thought process of reason and logic to deduce things that are actually true.
Well, most of these people, Keith, they won't even go look at this stuff and try to even figure it out. They just want to criticize and ridicule and character assassinate people and excommunicate, all
Yeah.
kinds of shit, And if they would just go read something.
Yeah. That's just coincidence, folks, that happens to come up the way that does. It's been a while since I opened that book, and so I didn't even think about it. But it's just coincidence that we happen to be going through this thing, and it spoke like that in that book. But maybe that's because I had read it like that before, and so that's already the process that I use. I don't know if it came from that book. I've always thought logically like that. Well, if you think you're going to excommunicate me, then you have to understand the word excommunicate is ecclesiastical. That means that you have to be able to define your community in order to discern whether you're using the word excommunicate appropriately. Notice it's excommunicate, which is community in origin, from the community. That means you must be able to define the objective points of what that community is. And if you're going to say that that community is something separate than the ecclesiastical community, then you are the one that is in fact already excommunicated yourself from the very communication. If
Well,
you
you
don't
brought that
get my point.
right. You brought that up about the ecclesiastical and the switch there with that master commissioner.
Yeah.
And it was interesting you brought that up because it says here that in their deal in the rules, it says the master commissioner shall exercise the power to regulate all proceedings before him or her and to take all measures necessary for the efficient performance of his or her duties, subject to the specifications and limitations stated in the order of reference or local rule of court. The Master Commissioner may require the production of evidence upon matters included in the order of reference, such as the production of all books, papers, vouchers, documents, and writings. The Master Commissioner may rule upon the admissibility of evidence unless otherwise directed by the order of reference and has the authority to put witness and parties under oath and examine same. They're running
Yeah.
the show. They're running the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now,
And that's
see,
why I say people have to learn how to use their reason and logic to bring the evidence to the fact or to the face of the record that, listen, I don't care what you think anymore because now I have this discovered information that I've been operating wrong and I have a duty to operate correctly in order for you to do your job correctly. Don't you understand how this works?
right. So look in your area there, Keith, because I know now in Pennsylvania. Now this is here. I was talking about Kentucky, but now Pennsylvania, they actually have 3 commissioners, right? In the city council, there's 3 commissioners, but there he is called the chief master, which is above those, and he's playing. He's above those commissioners that you see in the puppets in the council meetings. He's off and hiding behind the corporate veil or whatever you want to call it, because what they are is basically a state agency running state contracts as a business. They're private
Yeah.
contractors. They're I guess you could say GMOs.
Well, everything's considered a United States business. That's what we're on to here. Is that
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know that establishment enumeration at birth was the establishment of a legal representation to do business in the United States as a resident in one of the states of the Union, and that's just a conference of a nationality, which is a gift, and that nationality is that United States business. So if they're trying to use a business as a gift against the very one that it was gifted to, what's logic about that? Where's the logic in that? There is none. So there's got to be a misinterpretation somewhere, and that goes to that number 1. You need to learn how to clarify things so you can define it. That's the origin. It's pure and simple.
It just
So
drives
anyway,
me crazy that people don't see this. I mean, you know how much change this could make if people just grasp that simple concept of what the hell's going on in their communities.
yeah,
Maybe it would be a bad thing. I don't know.
no, it's just going to be a gradual thing, and that's what most people don't want to do is take up that extra responsibility that they done already gave shrug off their shoulders for the convenience and comfort of having somebody else take over. People don't want to take on that responsibility, and it's fucking just pure laziness for the gluttonous and greed, and that gives them a willingness to go ahead and bear false witness on their brother, and that just makes life easier for them. It's just sickening. It's all a misrepresentation, and it comes a point in time where you're a full-grown boy and girl, and you need to learn to grow up. And if you don't, I'm one of those people. I ain't gonna hold back. I don't give a fuck. Like I said, you're a full-grown boy and girl.
Yeah. That's what I tell everybody. I don't give a shit if 15 FBI agents and 3 state agencies want to come and gather around me. Hey, we're going to have the same conversation that I have with folks out here. The conversation's
Yeah,
the fucking conversation's not going to change.
yeah. See, that's what people don't understand. Okay, let me help you understand something here. And we're gonna hopefully get to see something happen here in another week and a half, 2 weeks here. Buddy of mine's locked up in jail here locally, and we're rounding something up to do a little video surveillance of the local police department here in, next Friday, not this Friday, but following Friday. So I'm going to be part of that. And it's not the only time I've ever been a part of anything. I did my own little video from my stopover 7-8 years ago. I've also had a couple other incidences where being surrounded on the highway with another gentleman protecting his 10 acres out in the mountains, and being surrounded with people, weapons drawn and everything, 15 of them, 20 of them on 3 different incidences. And then when I come back to Waterloo, I get surrounded by 8 of them. Again, same situation, weapons drawn, FBI, special detectives talking about this, and more of them over at my companion's apartment, harassing her and scaring the shit out of her. I'm not going to play games. I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to start sucking anybody's dick. I'm not going to cry. I'm going to be the full-grown man that you've been seeing here before. And I don't care if you don't like my motherfucking attitude. Have a gun pointed at your face. Have several guns pointed at your face. And then tell me how much you want a motherfucking cupcake and cower because you don't know how to be a motherfucking man.
I'm not kneeling to the will of another fucking man. I just ain't gonna do it, my friend.
Exactly. I don't give a fuck. That's the time, that last time when they surrounded me here in Waterloo, that's when I showed them the bicycle driver's license. And I was so proud. Yeah. You want an ID? I ain't got, well, actually, I got a bicycle driver's license. See? They got a nice little chuckle out of it and then asked me what my name was. I don't have one.
I remember that shit.
Yeah, well, everybody's got a name. No, only persons have names. Real men, we have callings. You need to learn how to use the language and shove it right back down their fucking throats. Because in a Socratic logical world, it can't be beat. Truth cannot be beat.
See, when I first got up on, started going to Paul's, I listened for a long time before I even started to even get up on panels. And, I guess I was kind of foolish because, I even said it there. I was looking for some kind of boots on the ground where we could all, each other's got each other's backs if somebody gets in, you know what I'm saying? But that just didn't, that was out of the ordinary. And I don't know how we intend to clean things up in America and around the world if we don't start with the communities. I mean, am I delusional here, or
well, that's where the power
insane
is.
Or what?
Well, that's where your power is your local communities.
Absolutely.
You cannot.
So, I don't understand why nobody would get on board with that. All these big talking heads out here that so-called know so much about the truth, and how come we all can't come together in one resolution to, start to work with one another in the name of something good anyway?
Yep, I hear you. Well, like I said, hopefully I'll be working with some local people here. Butt Crack News Network.
Butt Crack, I've heard that.
Yeah, that's Flex Your Freedoms. He's sitting in jail.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so this next following Friday, we're going to be getting together and doing some auditing over there, some video and stuff. And so that's going to be part of it, In the meantime, I'm going to come back, I think, either in about an hour here tonight or sometime tomorrow morning and do a review of their latest Marion video as it relates to the government falling apart. We have, so many corrupt officials throughout the land. And so we have video reviews that I've done on Tiffany Henyard. And they mentioned Tiffany Henyard in this most recent video. And that's exactly what we're talking about. It's not just, like I said yesterday, it's not just one community. It's all over this land.
It's everywhere.
And the only way it's going to get resolved is when the people stand up and put a stop to it, because they're the ones that are being oppressed. Why would the people that are oppressing you put a stop to it if they're the ones that are getting off on it? If they're the ones that are profiting from it, why would they stop that? It doesn't make sense in human nature. Logic and reason says that if they see an advantage that they can take part of, and this is why I say the entire commercial system. If you're involved in that commercial system as a man for profits, then what you're doing is you're taking profits, which means that you're accepting that you accept profits from the losses of another man. Therefore, you're accepting that your good comes from something bad. You know, and that's not the thing that we were talking about earlier in the Socratic logic about things can have some good effects. Bad things can have good effects. Just because somebody loses something doesn't mean it's a good effect to have somebody else capture that and not give it back, or do it knowingly that it's going to cause somebody to suffer a loss. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that if somebody's suffering a loss, they can learn from it and prevent it in the future. What we have here today is a profiting system that just won't stop because men want that profit, and that means you have to take advantage of the loss of another man. That's not the way we're supposed to be conducting our affairs with each other.
And that's
So
another thing that gets me. How don't we see that the financial instruments of today is the food on your table of the fish years ago? I mean, now you're buying. Now you can't fish the fish; you have to buy the fish.
Yeah. Well, most people.
Well, true, but you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
The slavery.
Funded and compartmentalized to the furthest existent, and they known the power. They have the power to continue it. They're bragging about their power for decades. Well, yeah, and that's part of again the dumbing down of society and the willingness of the people to let them just do things like put the foreclose on all the farmers in the 70s and then turn around and buy all that family farmland and create this industrial farming setup where we now have huge hog lots, huge cattle lots, and things like that. Greetings, Brian. What do you want tonight?
Why won't you join me on the black panels? My car's going to be dinging.
Why would I want to join you on the black panels, Brian? You go out with these stupid rhetorics and stuff. Why are you coming up on my panel tonight? Did you have a falling out with Paul? Is that why you're coming up and asking me why I won't come on your panel?
You know, there's a lot of black people that need help, and you're being very selfish.
Oh, okay. Then they'll come. Then they can come to me, right? I mean,
they don't know how to come to you. They're very needy people.
Well, that's what your job is then, right? You managed to find your way here, so you can go tell them, and they can find themselves here, right?
They need to figure out that goddamn scam.
I don't know, Wiz. He may.
Well, they'll never figure that out. Yeah. See, you want to come up here and play games, Brian? Is that it? You want some kind of comedy skit? Huh? You sitting back and watch.
Can't hear him.
I'll let you hang out. Yeah, of course we can't hear him. He wants to come up here and play this monkey game thing and try to make a issue on my panel. See, Brian, it's not going to work. You want to be a true man? Then you come up here and you talk like yourself. You don't bring your bullshit. I told you, I'm a full-grown man, and you need to respect me. And if you don't, that's fine. I don't care. But I'm not going to let you play your games on my panel. So in the meantime, guys, you guys got anything on the way out?
No, I would just like to. It is what it is. TV. I just if he's still down in the chat, I want to let him know I subbed him up after watching one of your deals.
Absolutely, yeah. Go check him out, folks. It is what it is. ITISWAT.
And
it is what it is.
And old Luther Bellerson down there, he's been in here several times. So I want to congratulate him on his little journey there. So, and with that, be the change you wish to see, folks. Popularity without a positive purpose is valueless and pointless to life. Much love, everyone. Many blessings.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you got, John?
Well, I think we got avalanched with school lectures and news stories and one-way contracts. I think we have to start thinking for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Seriously, we really do. And I think
Absolutely.
that's all I can say right now.
Well, with that then, John, I appreciate you once again for your support. Always love having you up. And with that, you know me, guys. I appreciate y'all. Please, a reminder, hit that like, share, and subscribe. There's PayPal link down there for anybody who wants to share some love. And you know me, I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night.